What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 46 of my journey, my blog, my vlog of me documenting my startup journey. And I'm building my own little Google. And I quit my job at Google to build this company, to start this company as a one-person company. I have no funding and I'm building it by myself at this point. And we'll see where this journey takes me. I do record these videos so that I can share how am I building it, my thought process, my thinking. And this is part two of the sort of more of an architecture perspective of how I'm thinking about building this. And needless to say, it's pretty hard to build a search platform that's sophisticated, smart, intelligent, but also global, like supports multiple locales and languages. Um, it's hard to do largely because you kind of have to replicate what the top AI models are doing by themselves. The reason being is the top AI models, they don't expose their thinking and their tool set completely to third-party developers. Um, if you could, then you could reverse engineer, you could make copycat models. It's also very expensive. And I mean, you could kind of take and build your own ChatGPT app that would work just like the ChatGPT. I mean, I'm kind of simplifying it, but that's some of the key reasons. And even if they were available, I think for one-person company like mine, a better model is to orchestrate a whole bunch of models instead of working with one what I call God model. And I think the future is like that, is mixture of experts like story, meaning the God model is not going to be one model. The God model will be the smallest model of all that knows how to orchestrate across a bunch of other models in the greatest way possible and be redundant or be aware of redundancy if some models are not available, what to do. And just in any circumstances, work through what it's got to provide the best response. That is the only way, in my opinion, you can build a God model. You cannot have one extraordinary large model. Yes, there'll be some very large models where you need thinking capabilities of that level. But you'll also need smaller models. Like if you're just asking what's the time in Calcutta, you don't need an extraordinarily large model. Uh, if you're asking for weather, again, you need the ability to fetch the weather and synthesize it, but you don't need an extraordinarily large model. But in certain cases where you want to plan a vacation with a lot of different circumstances and personalize it with weather in mind, currents in mind, budget in mind, it may require a medium-sized model. And then if you want to do just the greatest of research, cancer research, stock analysis research, deep dive, go hours and hours and hours to kind of think and plan and make a set of decisions, or at least propose a set of decisions, then you need the very, very larger models. Else you're just kind of wasting energy and just not being efficient. So people like me, my founders like me, I should say, we have the unique advantage that we don't have to use these very large models because we don't work for very large companies anymore. And we can build the way that I think the future is going to shape up. And thankfully, there'll be lots of models available for people like me to build upon. So one of the things I want to sort of deep dive in today's episode is how I'm thinking about it sort of at a very high 50,000 feet level. And the thing that really is the most interesting part that I'm building is this box in the middle. So the idea is that, you could have a request coming from various sort of layers, is what I call it, or surfaces, maybe is a better term. And then the destination could be different surfaces. So I'm thinking that in the future, what I build should be available via SaaS API for monetization, also to share what I've built with other developers. Uh, there is also a feature where you can publish a response that I'm building. There is also something where you can uh, call asynchronously, meaning what ChatGPT does today, where if you just ask it a question and close the app, after some time you'll see the response. Except in my case, you'll see the response in your email. So there are lots of ways, but all of this should access a shared, what I call the spine. And the big part of the spine is what's the Craig loop and the critic layer. So the idea is this is based on well-published research. where you're constantly refining and improving the response, because the expectation is that depending on the query or prompt, you may not get the best response in the very first run around. Either you may not have all the data sources available, or you'll find that you need more information. The model thinks we need more information. And so that's sort of the biggest sort of the core component of this architecture, the pipeline, if you will, that I'm building, is the shared spine. And that's where most of my energy goes. Like if this were be ready, all I have to do is build a UI, that's it, or the APIs, and that's it, you're done. Of course, privacy, security, there are layers as well you have to implement, but those are relatively simpler than building this component. So this is sort of the almost like the black hole, the main sort of uh, architecture component where if someone like me can build this correctly, or not correctly, but efficiently and smartly, intelligently, where it's very capable, it will give Perplexity, Google a run for its money as a one-person company. That's to me incredibly satisfying. Um, I have some more sort of diagrams that I want to go through. Um, So this is sort of just one more layer underneath. There's some layers because I said this is a mixture of experts like approach to building a search pipeline versus a Grok or a Claude that uses very capable models to make the decision. The advantage that my architecture style has is you never have to pick a model. So if you use Perplexity or Claude or ChatGPT, you often have to pick the model to start with. Now, there may be an auto mode like ChatGPT has auto mode and the model will be chosen automatically, but it's still not quite as powerful as what the way I'm thinking about it. Where in my approach, the user never has to pick a model. I mean, they can if they want to, but you almost never have to. And the composition of models and orchestration of models happens automatically, intelligently via LLMs. The LLM decide, do I need to up the thinking of the model? Do I need a better model or a cheaper, simpler, smaller model? These are different sort of layers the search sort of processing pipeline goes through. I'm not going to go into too much detail right now. The big thing is tools. There's a lot of effort that I'm putting in making sure you can pull external rich recent data sources. So obviously web search is one. Other examples are web stock tickers, what's the stock price, weather, um, research reports. There are lots of things. So that's the big thing. And then there is something called a wellness layer I'm building. I'll talk about it in future videos. But the idea is that because this is so complicated, every layer needs to kind of some kind of gate to see how we are doing up until that stage. Yeah, are we doing okay or not? And it's pretty complicated, pretty sophisticated um, pipeline. And without that, I was struggling because I would get inconsistent responses. Sometimes I'll get a good response, but for the same query, I wouldn't get a good response. And I wouldn't know what's happening, which layer in the pipeline. Either something was dropped, either the model didn't format correctly, or uh, for example, I also call YouTube API to get videos. Sometimes the model would include videos in the final response, sometimes it wouldn't, and it's very hard. And so that's the wellness layer that I've integrated to kind of give me the transparency and also as a gatekeeper check through the different layers. And I think this was my best, I don't want to say invention, but sort of my best architecture pattern. It simplified greatly. There's a little bit more in the wellness. I'm going to talk more about wellness later. I'm bringing it up because uh, the biggest struggle for someone like me has been inconsistency of responses, results, and so much. I've spent so much time thinking about it, and this was the best solution that I came up with. Basically, build a transparency, so log everything, so you can see, then have some kind of a intelligence. Wellness Arbiter uses LLMs um, when needed. So it's using intelligently find out what really happened at different stages, and then produce uh, uh, in the response, produce or rather synthesize some of the errors or warnings, either in debug mode or in the logs, so that I can understand what happened. It gives me that sort of X-ray vision, and also a lot of other capabilities. I have some more examples. This is an example of what, again, for someone in my position, the biggest problem is it's very easy to kind of just get a bunch of web search results and stick it in LLM and say, synthesize and give the user response. But that's like a weekend project. You're not going to get anywhere close to the quality that you'll see sort of my platform produces. Is I've done evals of the latest responses of my platform with Perplexity and Google AI mode. Is very close, oftentimes better. And if it's not better, it's the difference is not that very significant. Oftentimes, I don't have access to the data sources that Google does. So Google doesn't allow scraping of YouTube transcripts. It's totally not fair, but it itself does it. So it's just a small company problem, or a lot of scraping I have to do, or pulling. I don't call it scraping. It's just like I want to pull the article to uh, obviously give the credit to the article correctly. So I always make sure that's the case, but they'll block it. But they won't block Google or Perplexity, because Perplexity is doing paid licensing with a lot of these web publishers. But someone like me, I have no licensing deal, nor I'm a Google, and so they block me. So when the response is not good enough, oftentimes I just don't have access. I have a small company problem. But yet, I'm going through. Uh, my vision is to get enough feedback from the users from the first soft launch. It should be in maybe a few months, that I can improve him to a point where um, I can start generating revenue. Once I start generating revenue, my vision very much is to pursue deals uh, with other companies, like share the revenue. I don't like the approach of just sucking everything in and not sharing, and being very transparent, giving top shelf space. One thing I'll also, when I share my demo, you'll see I give top shelf space to search results. Like they're the grounding publishers and data providers. We don't want to hide them. I don't want to hide them on the side or at the bottom. They get good real estate, and users can interact with the search results. And sometimes that's what they want, right? I'll do my own research, and sometimes they want a little bit of both. But this highlights the problem where I had a lot of silent failures. So um, their coverage would be partial. Sometimes Exa, which is search engine API I'm using, among others. I'm also using Brave. So Exa doesn't have good coverage for certain non-English locales, Arabic, Japanese, Chinese, etc. So yeah. So this was the problem, and I would get a degraded response, and sometimes there would be weird things happening where markdown markers or so I have embedded cards in my response, and they have markers, and they would leak, meaning the card wouldn't get rendered because the formatting was not right, and this is a common problem with LLMs. So there were all these problems, and it was just so frustrating. I think I spent 6 months or 4 months, maybe 4 months, around these various solutions, and then the wellness checks and wellness gates was my solution. So if someone else is going through this problem, they can save 4 months experimenting and try what I'm now doing, which I've been reasonably successful now. And actually it gives a lot of other benefits. It gives you extra logging, extra metrics, detailed granular sort of walkthrough, so you can replay an entire response using multiple iteration. Even the response goes through multiple iteration, the refinement, all of that is logged. And this was my nightmare situation, the ghost state. The response would look good, but there are so many things that were discarded, blocked, have broken, and I just wouldn't know. There's some more detail on the wellness check, but like I said, I'm going to talk more in the future. But this maybe I want to talk a little bit. So this, when I say wellness, this is what is sort of the idea that there are different ways that the wellness arbiter records. at every gate, at every checkpoint of the pipeline. So it obviously records in such as part of the response so that if we can show it to the user, so user can contact me and say, hey, I'm seeing this. I think that's great to give me feedback. It's also logged in logging. So I use Google Cloud. It's entirely built on Google Cloud. So it uses logging. And then there's something called the receipts, which is the idea is that uh, you kind of log these receipts for different searches, and then in the future, run through all the receipts via LLMs to see how you can improve the algorithm automatically. Like if self-evolving, that would be great. Like how can this architecture self-evolve, self-improve, or at least give ideas to me on what to improve because of all the feedback that was collected last night or last week. Another thing is because I am global and multilingual from day one, anything we show to the user should be localized and translated. So that's also adds a layer of difficulty, complexity. um, you have to, if we show to the user a degraded response, I want to show it like, hey, we ran into some problems where we couldn't show you what we wanted to. Here's some debug info. All of that should be in the user's language and locale, but yet it should have some kind of ID that they can send me over. And using that ID, I can look up in the data store and find more info and then debug. So with this approach, um, anytime someone complains that, hey, I'm not getting a good response, all they have to do is send me their ID and give me their permission, and I should be able to pull up the information and uh, do that, go through the X-ray vision to see what really happened and hopefully improve the architecture. This is more sort of, yeah, this is just going in more detail, which I'm gonna go later. So I think that's it for today's video. Just I want to end sort of back to sort of this diagram. So we'll keep talking about different parts of how I'm building the spine, the entire pipeline, if you will. But today I covered a little bit about the problems I'm facing, which is mostly inconsistent results and how I'm trying to solve it. And I'll go, of course, in much more, um, I'll go much more deeper in future videos on how sort of query intent is identified, how I'm doing personalization. I'm not using a third-party service, building it myself, things like that. How all that is combined to come up with a good response, how the Craig loop improves. Like one thing, for example, as you go through a loop, sometimes the last response is not the best one, which in my tests I found out. And so you kind of have to pick the best response out of the various iterations, various responses. Essentially, you're generating multiple responses for the same prompt. And you don't want to pick the last one, assuming it's the best. You want to pick the best one. And you could actually go first step further and combine multiple responses into one final response that's like the best of the best. Um, so there's so much that you can improve. It's quick to build the first 30-40%. Just get the data, stick it in LLM. The hard part is to get consistent quality, great quality results on par or better than Google and Perplexity. And when I say Google, I mean the AI mode of Google. That's the goal. Like 80% of searches is my target in evals and user feedback. My platform's response to be better than Google AI mode and Perplexity default mode. And if I can, fantastic for one-person company. And everything I build, I want to share it with APIs so other developers can build upon. And I will make sure my APIs are the cheapest possible compared to Google, etc. So people can build on top of it great um, platforms, and I'll make sure they have most transparency. So like the reasoning, the thinking, or the data point that was used to pursue this decision, and maybe they can use this in their internal apps for whatever their purpose is. All of these things are currently not available. Like they have APIs from Perplexity, but they're nowhere as transparent as I'd like to be. And Google has just shut down. They just give you grounding APIs, which is just not sufficient. They want you to use their platform and if you are a big company, like a financial company who's not on Google Cloud, you're out of luck. And also, there are lots of criteria on privacy, data sharing. It becomes very, very difficult for very large or even medium-sized companies, even small companies, actually, if you care about privacy. So I want to sort of mitigate all of that. And my vision also is that in the future, I want to let companies run my platform in their data center completely internally, like deploy my platform's code if you're a banking service, you can deploy completely and not call any API, like don't call my platform. So that's also part of my vision. So I think that's it for today. Uh, I like to keep under 15 minutes. Today's 20 minutes. So need to get better on this, but I'll see everyone in the next one. Oh, and sorry, this is a video I'm doing after a long time. If you've seen my previous videos, I was in a hell situation because I was in a place where it was so loud and there's construction all around. We finally moved. I took a big loss, a big hit. We had a lease and other things going on and furniture and blah, blah, and we had to leave all that behind. And we moved. This is a new place. There are a lot of boxes around me, so need to get that working as well. But this place is a little more quiet, actually a lot more quiet. And for a single person founder working from home, building something like this, if you don't have a good quiet environment, it becomes very hard to work. And it's tough. So that's it for today. See you in the next one. See ya.